So, just a couple of days ago, or yesterday.
I need to teach my kids, Sam, how to put themselves to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yesterday, we adopted our fourth child.
Yep.
Her name is Eva.
Everly.
Everly.
Which is a real name, if you don't agree.
Everly is a name, but the way that we spell it is not a name. It's very weird. Because her name has always been Eva, and Lauren wanted to change it to something nice and pretty, which Eva's already pretty.
Eva's pretty, yeah.
To Everly, but we wanted to keep the EVA, so it's spelled EVARLY.
Yeah.
And I fought with her on it for so long because I was like, "That's Evarly. What Evarly? That's not a thing." But so we have 4 kids. We have our 2 oldest who are biological. We adopted our Silas, who is now 3.
And he's our youngest.
He's our youngest. And then we just adopted yesterday Eva. But so we wanted to share a little bit of Eva's story because Eva has...
quite the story.
So Eva was actually the first kid that we ever asked about or inquired about whenever we first looked into foster care.
But so when you start your foster care training, you can either go complete foster route or you can go what we did, which was
foster to adopt.
Legal risk.
Oh, yeah.
And that it's essentially foster to adopt, and it's where you, and I'm saying this because you wanted this to be like a teaching session too, about foster and adoption, because apparently this is foreign to a lot of people. But we chose to go the legal risk route so that we would have more of that option to adopt, and it's less of a chance that they will go back to their families. And by doing that, it's usually one of the parents have their rights already terminated. So when you get on that list, you're sent just kid after kid. I mean, probably 20 emails a day.
Yeah, we got them all the time.
Kids, a lot of times multiple kids, most of the time older kids.
Which is very sad how many kids are in the system and just being introduced into the system all the time. Because we'd get those emails constantly.
Yeah, and very sad. Pretty much you look at the profile, the basic profile, and see if that's a kid that you feel like would fit in your family. And if it is, you submit for more information. And so she was one of the first ones that we actually saw and submitted before Silas came along or anyone.
Yeah.
So
right.
That's just kind of the background.
Yeah. So we got an email with her, and my wife has been a special needs teacher she's not anymore, but was for
12 years.
12 years. Long time. So she's always had...
Damn. I just grew up with it.
yeah, she should. But so she's always had a big heart for special needs people. And so whenever Eva came through on our email and we saw that she was at the time 2.
Because she only went into care when she was 6 months. So she was at least 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But saw that she had some pretty severe special needs. She has Down syndrome. She has many other physical issues, which...
They're all delays that come along with Down syndrome if you're not getting that help that you are needing, which we'll get into.
We'll get to the rest of her story and why things are like that. But anyway, so we got that email. Lauren was interested. I was nervous.
You were not interested.
No.
You were very much.
And so, but we did ask.
We did.
We said, send us some information, and they never did. We didn't hear anything for a long time. So we were like, well, I guess, she's just not available or something. And moved on. And then eventually...
Months.
Yeah, months.
It was months.
A long time. And then Silas came through, and we asked about him. And was Si the one that they said, well, yes, but you have to come get him tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
So, but his was still a process because we submitted for him. And when I say process, it was a couple of weeks. So you submit, they decide if you are a fitting family or not based on what our profile is. So we originally submitted our profile with pictures of us, our house, our kids, everything about our life for all of these agencies. You just have to be super transparent and open with them, what your beliefs are, faith beliefs, parenting beliefs, marital beliefs, and
everything.
just everything.
They know everything about you.
They do. Like, they probably know more about us than we know about each other.
Yeah.
Honestly, because we've been interviewed so many times by all the caseworkers and agencies and
constantly people coming over without asking, just CPS or whoever. All right, we're doing an inspection, we're checking everything out, or we're interviewing people, we're asking questions.
It's crazy. It's chaos.
Yeah.
So essentially, we submitted our home study our profile for him, and they decided that we were able to move to the next step, and it's 3 or 4 steps depending on how many families there are, and then you get on a conference call, and they interview you via phone. So a couple of weeks, and then they called us and said we were chosen, and we had to come to Dallas and pick him up.
Yeah, you had to come tomorrow
at 8:00
and get him. And we're like, wow, okay. So fast forward kind of through Sai's story. Sai's story is a brief thing on Sai's story, because Sai also has kind of a sad story. I mean, they both do.
Yeah.
I think something that we learned in foster care training is that any kid in foster care has experienced trauma. They may be very young and not able to understand or process anything, but even just the fact that they are disconnected from their family through whatever means, whatever the reason was, there's trauma, and it affects them mentally, physically, emotionally, developmentally, in every way. So Sai already, he had a lot of trauma.
And we got him right a week before his first birthday.
That's right. Yep.
And that little dude had already been through trauma that I don't think with your family, your divorce and stuff, I'm sure you felt some of that trauma to the extreme that he did.
Yeah, because I've told them about that my parents got divorced when I was 16.
Okay. Didn't want to. But and just a lot of the people who go into foster parenting, I don't feel like I have experienced trauma in my life, like even he at one experienced.
Yeah.
So but I feel like too, with him, he had a fairly simple case, but he had been with a family from the get-go, just one foster family, and they had another foster child with them, and they chose to adopt that child and let Sai go.
Yeah.
Which I think they would have eventually found out. They let biggest blessing go, because he's something amazing. Else. He's amazing. Yeah. He's got a great life ahead of him. But the other thing, you're talking about all the trauma, and I don't know how many people on here are in education or in any kind of Sam will know what I'm going with here. But if you work with kids of any type, for instance, I'm in education, my cousin's in education, I know a pastor, so he deals with this. Dustin has probably seen some of this. But you see kids every day who are going through hard times and who have trauma in their life, but they're still with their families. And while their trauma looks so bad, the trauma of any of these kids that's in foster care is significantly worse, because they...
Oh, absolutely, Risto.
Because they've dealt with things like losing their parents and their siblings. And we had profiles of kids show up who had 11 siblings in the system.
Right.
There's no way that those kids are together. So even your worst trauma in your life, the worst trauma in any of the students that I deal with on a daily basis, the trauma of even our 1-year-old was way worse than anything that we could imagine.
Yeah.
Or even the kids in our classes can imagine.
So
Thanks.
That's sweet. Size, that was some trauma, but the first big hit to Sai was being taken from his biological mother, who his mom, and correct me if I'm wrong because I may have details wrong, because I get theirs mixed up in others that we've read and lots of hard stories, but from my understanding, his mom was a prostitute. She was addicted to weed, and was he was like 3 months old, I think.
Yep. It was 3 months.
He's like 3 months old. Yeah. Whenever she was in the car with several guys, and they were smoking, and got pulled over, and the police or whoever, I guess, took Sai from her and placed him into the system.
His dad, he's the product of a one-night stand.
Yes.
And his dad's actually in Oregon.
Yeah. And
so.
his dad, once they figured out who the father was through DNA tests and whatever, they arranged.
There was multiple.
Yeah, there are many people it could have been.
Possibilities there.
But once they figured out who it was, they arranged for the father to meet Sai, and so made this connection, and the dad showed up for this meeting, and it was a 3-hour meeting, and the dad left after 30 minutes.
Saying he had a toothache.
Yeah, complaining about a toothache and whatever. But yeah, so I mean, think about that. That's your dad. That's Sai's dad. And he spent 30 minutes with him total, and that's it. Wasn't interested and walked out of his life. So then he went to the foster family that was a great foster family.
Yeah.
They were great. We met them, spent time in their home, and
very sweet people.
Yeah, believers, good people. But yeah, so through those kind of circumstances, they weren't going to keep him, and so he came to be with us and was with us for about a year-ish before we adopted him, which happened
right under a year.
Right under a year, yeah. Which happened in 2019. So he's been with us coming up on 2 years.
2 years, July 30th.
Yeah, which is wild. But so in the middle of all that, I know we've been talking a lot about size, but
there's a reason.
There's a reason, because remember I said earlier that Eva was the first child that we ever asked about, and we never heard back, and we were like, oh, I guess she's not available, and then found out about Sai, go through all that. Then, after Sai's adopted, like a few days after Sai's adopted.
Yeah, it was a few days, because we adopted, went to church camp, kids camp, and within that time frame,
right,
we got that call.
We got the call about Eva asking if we were still interested, because she had still been in the same foster home.
I don't want to call it that.
Not a family.
Yeah.
We'll tell that story in a minute. But she had been there for a while.
She went there when she was released from the hospital. So in the hospital, they're able to keep you for a certain amount of time. And do we even want to get into that part of the story yet?
Why she's...
Yeah,
why?
Okay,
yeah, back up. Why is she in the hospital when she's born?
So she was born...
Well, I guess most people are born in a hospital, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, we won't go there. So when she was born, she was addicted to cocaine. That was the only trace of anything that was in her system, but I mean, that's a huge trace of things in her system. But she was left in the hospital by her both... I don't like to call them parents. I call them egg and sperm donors. I mean, they're not the parents, and because I mean, we're the parents. I don't think anybody who leaves their kids.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I can't call them parents, but they left their kid in the hospital. And this was Eva. So she was there for 6 months. From what paperwork says, she was well loved by the nurses. I mean, you can't look at this child and not love this child.
Yeah.
I liked what we have a nurse that comes a couple days a week and hangs out and helps. And she said to, what did she post? Do you know?
To know Eva is
to
to
know
love
Eva is to love Eva, and that couldn't be said.
You know what? While you're telling this, I'm gonna pull up some pictures of Eva to show y'all. For those of y'all who haven't seen
that is absolutely the perfect way to describe Eva. You can't look at this child and not just fall in love with her. So, so she's in the hospital for 6 months. In that 6 months, she's failure to thrive, which is to be expected. Her parents left her. She's got nurses that love her, but they're not the parents. They don't have that bond with her. They can only do so much for a child. And so she ends up on a feeding tube, a G button that goes through her stomach, and drips milk. And after that, she, I guess, aged out is what you can say of the hospital. Reached her limit of staying at the hospital before they put her in the system. So she eventually just went straight to the system and into a home that was not a home.
No.
It was a person who went through the process to become certified, and had a couple of kids. One very severe on a trach, bedridden, and then Eva. And so with Eva, you can kind of see.
Here, you just keep talking. I'll get it.
Do you want me to just kind of keep telling her story?
Yeah.
Okay. So with Eva, she's in this home, and I kind of want to put a disclaimer. Like, I don't want to say anything that she is who she is right now solely because of us.
No.
Because it's not. A lot of people look at foster care and see cases like Eva and think that it's only because we took her in and we loved her and she is like that, like she is now because of that. And that's absolutely not the case. It's a huge village that has brought her where she's at. But so she is in this house and basically just left in her bed. And you can they see that picture?
Yeah, so they see whatever's up there.
Okay, you can see Silas. He's our other little one that we adopted. We call them partners in crime.
Yeah.
But we have learned over the time that we've had Eva that she was essentially just left in her bed.
Her that day.
Yeah. That is a romper, and the ruffles on the bottom are actually supposed to be on the shoulders.
Yeah.
And the part on her shoulder that looks like a Fred Flintstone outfit is supposed to be the shorts.
Thank you guys so much. Neo Spider, Ivory John, thank y'all so much for that. For those things. Code Monkey, thank you for that.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is, but I know it's awesome, so thanks, guys. But yeah, so things that we've kind of learned about Eva while she was in that home is that she was in her bed all the time. She was on her feeding pump all the time. She was, and this is from 6 months to, we got her what? A week before her 3rd birthday? Because she's fixing to be 5. Or was it a week before her? Yeah, a week before her 3rd birthday.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So over the course of a year and a half, this is how, no, 2.5 years. This is how Eva lived. She was in her bed. She was slowest possible feed on her pump. And if you don't know anything about feeding pumps, quick rundown. The type she has goes in her belly, and you can adjust the rate that it gets dripped into your belly. You can adjust the amount. You can adjust how often. And they essentially had her on the very slowest rate. So she was eating for 3 hours at a time, loose from the pump for 30 minutes at a time. Eating loose, eating loose. And so she's just a constant on her pump. Yes.
Vicky pump.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly right. And so there was that situation.
So
she
paused right there. So that means she didn't eat for 3 years.
That's exactly what I was fixing to say.
Okay.
So yes, with that, she had no food by mouth, no drinks by mouth, absolutely nothing by mouth for 3 years. And that in itself causes all sorts of trouble. Her facial muscles are not having to work. Her throat muscles are not having to work. Her, I guess, motor muscles, I don't know if that's correct terminology, but in her mouth, nothing here works.
I always called her tongue another creature because it would just like go out and do its own thing, and I was like, put that thing away.
She knew it was there, but she had no idea what to do with it because it had never been stimulated in a way that needed to be stimulated. And so there's the feeding aspect, and then there's the medical aspect. So there's some of these pictures you'll notice she has a scar here from her open heart surgery, which she had. We honestly cannot find paperwork to show when she had that. No hospital has record of that. Like, it's been a fun little attempt to try to get that information. But she has seen a cardiologist. Everything's great. She's not having to go back except for once a year for follow-up, but heart problems are very common with Down syndrome kiddos. And she had that heart issue. That is common. So she had open heart surgery. And with that, they had her on, do you remember how many medications she was on 1 week?
I don't know.
I mean, it was page after, 25, 30, like somewhere between 25 or 30 medications that she came to us on. And
so they might not all know, because I didn't know about like the financial side of things. So are you getting to that?
Yeah, I will.
Okay. Because that was infuriating to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I love that Sam is on here because she has seen so much of the progress, and Pastor has seen so much of the progress from the time we got Eva to the time that we have adopted her. Oh, that's a terrible picture. I had to squat the whole time. My thighs are sore.
That was during the adoption. We had to do it by Zoom.
So we got her with about 25 to 30 medications. Can't even, they just brought basically a duffel bag of medications in. It was terrible.
Wait, who did?
The CPS worker.
Yeah, because not the foster
No.
house.
So getting to that.
Okay.
Because that was a hot mess in itself. That was her first swimsuit. No, that was her second. Sorry. Her first one was that cute little baby bum with the ruffles on the bottom. Yeah. There was the medication side, and then so now she is on nose spray, an inhaler. Nose spray is not even prescription, it's just a saline nose spray to keep her cleaned out. One inhaler, and then cetirizine for her allergies.
Yeah. So
yeah, inhalers for her allergies.
Zyrtec. And
yeah. No, she's not even on Zyrtec. That was PRN. Not cetirizine, Singular.
Singular, yeah, that's right.
So yeah, we've gotten all of those cleared out slowly with the progress. So she is still on her feeding tube, and I'll kind of get into that a little more because
barely. We're almost done.
She is such a fighter, guys. So yeah, Dusty, I'll kind of get into that. Saying a lot about her backstory because it really will show how much she has grown, and then through all of it how much even we have grown.
Yeah.
As parents and as individuals and as just a couple.
Yeah.
In all aspects. And so when we got the call, so that's kind of the background of her medications, her feeding, why she was on a feeding tube to even begin with. We didn't even really know what was all involved. And I taught SPED for 12 years. I had kids on feeding tubes. And I have another cousin who actually was on the phone with me for about 30 minutes. He and his wife just had a little one with Down syndrome. She's right at a little over a year old, I think, 18 months old. And we were talking about it, like being in the classroom day in and day out with these kiddos, you still don't know what truly goes into it until you live this life on a daily basis. So we get the call and they are doing with her, since it was more of I feel like I'm doing this all. Like, you fine with that?
Well, let me know when you want me to jump in.
I mean, whenever.
Okay.
I'm just kind of going with a story.
Well, wait, which part were you going to now?
The conference call, but you weren't part of that either.
Then keep going.
So,
you haven't gotten to any of the parts that I want to say yet, so I'll say all the riled up parts. You keep saying all the nice parts.
Okay, so when we get to picking her up.
Yeah. Okay, then I'll get mad. Y'all never see me mad. You get to see me mad.
So all of this has happened before we get to even pick her up. We're finding kind of all of this stuff out. And so we're on the conference call, and this lady that is her foster caretaker, that's what we can call her, foster caretaker, is telling me that she needs this oxygen tank, and she has physical therapy and speech therapy and occupational therapy. Come to find out, she had those therapies 10 minutes a month for physical therapy, 15 minutes a month for speech, and like 10 minutes a month for OT, which, if you know anything about therapies, that does absolutely nothing. We have
good night, Nova.
Students and kids who typically have, I mean, my sister's a home therapist. She sees kids 45 minutes, 30 minutes, twice to 3 times a week. And
pause on this picture while you keep going.
Okay. And she had therapies 10, 15, and what did I say? 15, 2 15s and a 10 per month. So that's not even a fraction of what a typical child in therapy should be getting. When you get 15 minutes a month, you're graduating out of therapy. So she's telling us all of this. So we get through this horrendous call of what all she needs: her oxygen tank, her hospital bed, her wheelchair, her walker, like just things, her feeding pump, not year round, around the clock, all of her medications.
All 25 or 30.
Yeah. Her whole list of, absolutely. Yeah. No time to even build a relationship if you're a therapist, much less even know what the child's name is.
Yeah.
So after that phone call, I never told Dustin this, but I was actually questioning if we were supposed to really be getting this child or not. We didn't tell him the best part about kids camping.
I'll tell that part.
Okay. Is that part of your riled up part?
Yeah.
What? Okay. Because you're so mad at God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but at this point, I was honestly questioning if this was a good thing, because, again, we have 3 other kids, and one of our things with foster care is it has to be a child that is going to be able to be a part of our daily lives, which is a very busy life. We have church life, we have family life, we have our family life, as well as the extended family life, school events, kids in, at that time, t-balls, just different sports things. So it had to be kids that were able to be involved with our life and have that I feel like there's a calling for people who are truly medical and need to stay in and live that type of life. And then I feel there's a calling for people to take in kids who are very active and need a family life that is active and out in the real world. And then there's a calling for people who can take in those kiddos who are extremely affected by trauma. And honestly, my parents are one of those.
Yeah, they are.
Extremely affected by trauma and deal with so much of the trauma that it affects their behavior and their well-being and how they function in their daily lives. So our calling as a couple and as a family, because foster care is a family calling. It's not just Dustin and I. It's Dustin, me, Kat, James, and Silas, and now Eva. It's a family thing. And our calling is to have those kids who we can better their quality of life by taking them out and showing them events outside of the home. And
yeah, so Eva, after all that she had been through, being born addicted to cocaine, being left at the hospital in the care of nurses for a few months, then whenever she went into this other home that did all the things that Lauren's been talking about, barely any time with therapy, not enough time to build any kind of relationship, having her on all kinds of medications. And here's what I was mentioning earlier, the financial aspect of things. Whenever we first got Silas in, shortly after, we got a check. And I was like, what the heck?
News to us.
Yeah, I was like,
I mean, I guess they told us, but it didn't register.
Because we're like,
whoa,
why are we getting money? And apparently this is common knowledge, and I had no idea, but the state will pay licensed foster families to care for kids, to provide care, to make sure that they're taken care of, that you can get all their food and take care of them and whatever. But, so I didn't even know that. And then was like, oh, okay, well, cool, that makes sense. All right. And then Eva, because she's special needs and has all these medical things, they pay more because
it's based on the need of the child.
So this home that took in several like Eva who were medically fragile and had needs, and did the kind of stuff that Lauren's talking about, like put them on the feed as slow as possible, had all the kind of medical stuff so that they could have nurses in their home
around the clock. There were
24/7.
3 nurses there when we picked her up.
Yeah, 3 nurses there
for 2 kids,
taking care of the kids while the parents do whatever they want and make money off the state.
Yeah.
It was infuriating. So, hold on.
It is infuriating, but
we got them shut down immediately after we got Eva, by the way.
Well, we did not, but
yeah,
we I love it when you get riled up.
Well, it's ridiculous.
It is, because I see your passion coming through, and I love that. But I forgot where I was even going with that.
I don't know.
But yes, it's a common thing. Like, I grew up with parents who were in the foster system, or not in the foster system, but we had kids in and out my whole life. I can't even begin to count how many kids we had, but essentially my parents adopted 7, and you hear about all of these parents who take kids in because it is a job that they get paid for, which is bizarre to me. But you hear those things, and I never saw it, because the people my parents associated with were also in foster care for the fact of saving kids and giving kids an opportunity, and following their calling. These people are more common than what we realize, and this was my first experience to actually see a situation like this.
Yeah.
And when we walked into her house, like, I remember looking at Dustin or Pastor Houston, sorry. And
Yes.
and looking at him and being like, what the heck?
Yeah, we were scared to touch anything.
It was immaculate and beautiful, but not a house where a 3-year-old and whatever age the other kid, not a house that you would expect to see little toddlers who should be up and playing and running around and rummaging through cabinets. Like, we didn't even want to sit on the couch. It was that nice.
Yeah, it was like stuff from all over the world, super expensive stuff. We were like, okay, we're not able to touch anything. Yeah. If we let Eva loose in that house, she would destroy everything in about 30 seconds.
I wish we could take her back right now. But
so
to see like what she would do in that house.
But so, okay.
Yeah. Sam, yeah, she might be able to count how many.
Right. Yeah. So Eva had never eaten anything in her life for 3 years. She had never drank anything in her life for 3 years. She had never walked in her life for 3 years. She had never said a word in her life for 3 years. All she had done is stayed in a crib, hooked up to a machine as slow as possible so that these people could get money from the government and let nurses take care of her. So basically, whenever we got her, that's why I left this picture up. The picture on the left, this is Eva the day we picked her up. This is this is at our house whenever we got her home.
When we got her home, yeah.
And you can see just in her face is just
lifeless.
That's the perfect word. Lifeless. The picture on the right was...
That was hers.
It wasn't her birthday.
That wasn't her birthday?
No.
No, that was when we were homeschooling. During COVID.
During COVID, okay, yeah. So early COVID.
My sad attempt
at
homeschooling. Ago. Just because you're a teacher does not mean you can homeschool, guys. Throw that out there.
So now Eva has long, beautiful, thick black hair that goes down halfway down her back. You can see, I don't even know what to call this on the left.
We got her in the left picture. She actually had like pieces of hair longer on one side, like just a terrible chop of a job.
It looked like I took kindergarten scissors and tried to cut her hair. It was all just mismatched and just terrible. But
her hair, we measured it, and it's grown about a foot and a half.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful and has the beautiful waves
and she's full Mexican, so she's got that like thick black beautiful hair, and she. So like I said, she hadn't ever eaten or walked or done anything. Now she's like within a month or something, she was walking at our house.
No, I mean,
it was quick.
It was, yeah. So we'll back up.
Okay.
How did she get to that? I know.
Okay.
But I feel like if we're gonna tell them the story, let's tell them the whole story.
I know.
So one thing, Kat, she's probably still watching, and she has about 9 minutes until she has to go to sleep. But one thing she wanted us to make sure about telling you guys is how they felt when we showed up with Eva. So my sister came with Silas. We got to go as a family and pick him up because we knew the situation we were going into was a good situation.
Yeah.
They had assured us that his home he was in was a great home, a godly home, and it was a beautiful. They have a beautiful family and a beautiful story of their own. And this is her awesome nurse that comes and hangs out with us every once in a while, every couple days. She's like our family now too.
Yeah, she's our sister.
So whenever she came home, my sister was here keeping the kids. Dustin and I drove down to Richmond.
Something like that.
Yeah, Richmond. It was down in Galveston area to pick her up. When we picked her up, we actually were not given all of her medications then. Her poor CPS worker drove all the way here, realized foster mom had not packed any of her medications.
We weren't given anything. We're supposed to have.
We were supposed. I'll get to that.
Okay. I'll just keep scrolling through pictures. You talk.
We were got here, realized there's no. So that's one of my adopted brothers there.
I can't see you pointing at the screen.
the blonde right there is my youngest adopted brother. We have a special relationship. I love me some Pappy. But no medication, so our sweet CPS worker had to go all the way down to Galveston County again the next day, drive all the way back here, because when you pick up a foster child, they have to follow CPS worker, CASA worker, placement agency, which ours is in Tyler. But they all have to meet you, follow you from the foster home to your house, meet you at your house, and do all of the intake paperwork. And so we picked her up and got her to the house. But when we were leaving, I was like, hey, how much does she eat? When does she need to eat? Because G-tubes, you are on, she was kind of around the clock, like I mentioned. She couldn't tell me how often or how much. She was not even going to send her feeding pump with her. It was just a mess.
Which doesn't even belong to her.
No,
it belongs to the state.
It was the state. And so, finally, she just scribbled some numbers on a paper, and I was like, you know what, we'll figure this out on the road. So Dustin starts driving home, and I'm calling nursing agencies to try to figure out what the deal is. And so get home, and I remember, this is Kat. She was so excited to finally have somebody that she could be twins with. And so we pull in. My sister brings all the kids out. They're kind of lined up like we're bringing a new baby home from the hospital, because that's what it feels like. It's the coolest feeling, to just have this child in your car, knowing that essentially they're going to be yours. And that's kind of another part of the story, is like knowing that she was supposed to be with us regardless of how hard it was fought. Which I'll get back to that too. And Kat is just bubbly and excited and ready to get her out of the car, and James is almost in tears, and he's like, Mom and Daddy, thank you so much for bringing my baby home to me. And he's our little sensitive one, and he was really almost in tears. And he woke up yesterday and he thought we said we were taking Eva to the doctor, not that we were adopting. And so he was in tears yesterday morning when we woke him up, saying he doesn't want Eva to have to go to the doctor. She's here forever. And we're like, no, yeah, you're right, she's here, this is her adoption day. And he was like, so no doctor? And it was sweet. So they immediately bonded, and I feel like that has made all of the difference. And I don't mention Silas in that, because he was he would have been 2?
Yeah, he was little. 2,
yeah. So he knew it was like, he knew another kid was coming, but didn't fully understand. So I want to kind of go into the camp situation.
I was going to say that once we're getting to the happy part at the end.
Okay.
Let me rant a little bit more, and then we can
start. I'll let him rant.
Saying happy.
Start ranting.
So,
like, she has a lot to her story. I didn't even.
Yeah. Like,
in my head, it doesn't sound like. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we've never talked about it. So
we're
the only ones who know all this stuff. But so she's, we went through all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, she has beautiful eyes.
She does. Your wife is such a wonderful help for you, loving these honest and pure moments. Amen. Amen, John. So wholesome, yeah. Well, hey, you're about to hear it very honest, because, we can get into that then. Okay, let's get into that. Let's be super honest. Because Lauren has 9 brothers and sisters. There's 10 kids in her family. 7 of them are adopted. Mm-hmm. She's used to this, because I'm from a family of 2. I have 1 sister. Used to a small family. Mm-hmm. We had a boy and a girl. I was done. I was happy. whenever we found out about Eva, whenever they called us back, so after we already had Sai, we had Sai, I was done. We were complete. Everything was perfect. We had our family. We went to the
head.
Yep, we went to the court. The judge, everything, did the adoption, celebrate, everyone's there, we go out to eat, everything's perfect. It's days, I don't remember how many, but days later.
It was 3 days.
3 days. We go to camp. We get the call about Eva saying that, are we still interested? She needs to be out of this situation. And we're at kids camp, leading our kids. We got a group of whatever 20 something kids there. We're trying to, lead them to encounter God and have this awesome experience. But it was like more so for me out of everyone than anyone on the campground, because we talked about it and we were like, all right, let's take this time that we're at camp and let's pray. Let's seek God. Let's see, is this what God would have us do? Take in this child. And so we did. We prayed and we sought God harder than any of the kids at the camp, probably. And felt like it was what God was calling us to do, was to take in Eva. And here's the pure and raw and honest part. I was mad.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to. My family was perfect. I was done. God had given us 2 healthy babies, and then a third that we were able to take in and make one of our own, for him to be as our own. And then it was just as clear as it could be that we were supposed to take in Eva, and I was mad. I did not want to. I was afraid. I didn't want to mess up our perfect little family, everything that we had accomplished and whatever. I didn't want to. So I let Lauren know that I felt like it's what God was calling us to do, and we were going to do it, but I was not happy about it at all.
And he pretty much, this is the tone he told me. He looked at me, and because I had to give Mala, our worker, the answer, because they had other families in line wanting to take Eva in. And so I had to have him give me an answer, and he looked at me and goes, tell her, yeah, we're doing it. I was like, dude, act a little more excited. We get the coolest child, the coolest disability there is.
Yeah. But I wasn't excited.
And he wasn't. Like, this is the exact, that's the tone he told me.
So I love that, Sean. That's awesome.
I knew we had a long road ahead of us there.
We did, because we've had Eva with us for close to 2 years now. And I've been drug kicking and screaming through the whole process. Mm-hmm. Loving Eva. Now, hear that from the beginning.
I want to put a little insert in there, though.
Okay.
Because you, and I'm not dogging on you, but you always...
They all do.
You always talk about how unconfident, I don't know the word.
Unconfident?
Not confident you are with parenting. With Kat, you were amazing. With James, you were amazing. With Sai, you were amazing. And then you were like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I'm done. Eva, like, there's no way I can love a kid with special needs. You're freaking amazing. Like, and that's what...
The way that I said it, and that I've said a lot, is I'm an amazing parent to 1 kid. I'm a decent parent to 2. I'm a struggling parent to 3. I'm afraid I'll be a terrible parent to 4, is how I've always said it to her. And I've told y'all many times, I'm my own worst critic on everything. I'm always the hardest on myself about everything. And so that's always been my struggle, is I want to be a great parent. I don't think I am. I don't. You just heard it from her that she says I'm doing amazing.
Well, like other people.
Also, I don't cry, but I'm
well, that's
trying to cry.
Not only from me though. That's other people. Like I'll send videos and things to our CASA workers. So that's another person who is involved in this whole thing is the CASA worker, and they are the advocate for children in foster care. So each child in foster care is assigned a CASA worker who they get some funds from the state, but they are ultimately volunteers. And I'm going to say this part and then I'll go check on the kids, make sure they're asleep.
Okay.
And then I'll come back up. But even the CASA worker is like, I have no idea why he is so self-doubting, because you can look at him with not only Eva, but Kat and James and Sai and see how strong of a parent he is. So other people in this whole situation have seen it and commented on how strong of a parent you have been through the whole thing, whether you wanted to be a parent to Eva or not. But it kind of goes to show, like, I want to kind of backtrack just a little.
There's a happy ending to this story, yes. To the frustration. So
there really is.
We're not there anymore.
It just kind of goes to show that you never have the plan, or your plan in your head is never the perfect plan, because like Dustin said, he was done after Sai. But the truth is, with Eva being the very first one that we actually saw and showed interest in, and she was pushed aside for another year until we were completely done adopting Silas, and then she came back in the picture, shows you that God had a completely different plan. And if we would have had Eva first, we would not have had Sai, because I think you and I both would agree that we would have shut the doors then. Like, I wouldn't have thought I could handle another kid after having Eva.
Yeah.
And so for God to take Eva out of the picture, put Silas in, our family really is complete now, because we allowed him.
Promise?
Well, I mean, besides the rest of it. But I feel like we would have still had a void if we would have had Eva placed with us right when we had asked for her to be.
Yeah.
When God's plan all along was for us to have 4 kids. It was for us to have Silas and then Eva. And so he took Eva out of the picture so that we wouldn't have shut that door.
Yeah. Which, on that note, we only ever asked about 2 kids. Out of all the hundreds and thousands that we've gotten, we've asked about 2. Silas and Eva. And God put both of them with us. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that gifted sub from an anonymous gifter to Sean. Thank you. Yeah, but that's a very good point. That is God's perfect timing. If Eva had been put with us first, we would not have been ready. I would not have been ready, and we never would have had Sai.
No. He would have, I don't know where he would have ended up. He would have been with another.
Yeah.
But I think we also would have felt if we would not have followed God's plan with that, we would have felt, I don't want to really say the wrath, but we would have felt that void and known that something wasn't quite right for the rest of our lives, because he wasn't with us.
Yeah. So you've probably noticed, and you see right now, a few pictures like this where Eva's in pretty rough shape. She'll be right back. This was not too long at all after Eva came to us. She was with us maybe 3 or 4 months, and not even, it was November. So yeah, like 3 months. And she, remember all of her physical stuff, she'd been in that cage basically for 3 years, never eaten, never drank, never moved, never done anything. And she had very weak lungs and difficulty breathing. She got pneumonia? No, it was RSV. It started as RSV, and it turned into pneumonia. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it started as RSV and then turned into pneumonia, which in her physical condition was a very scary thing. So we took her to the emergency room or doctor or something, and they put her on oxygen. Oh, actually, here, let me tell you this too. You see that thing on her arm is because whenever she first came to us, she never stopped moving. And I mean, like, not exaggerating. She always was like this, just moving all the time, because she had never moved. She was trying to, like, stimulate herself somehow. She had never moved. Or never, like, had an opportunity
to move.
Huh?
Never had an opportunity to move.
Yeah, to, like, get out her energy. So so they put that thing on her arm to keep her arm straight so she wouldn't mess with all the stuff on her, because they just couldn't keep her still. But she eventually...
Well, here they actually had her sedated.
Yeah, oh, okay.
They had to completely sedate her.
Yeah, so she was sedated.
Yeah. Yeah,
because while she was sedated, I texted Lauren and I said, this is the first time I've ever seen Eva still. Because she was just never still. So we were there in the hospital for days, here at our local hospital, and she was not getting better. She was getting worse. She couldn't breathe. Her oxygen levels were going down. And I mean, remember all the stuff that we're saying and my mindset and all this. I'm still very angry and confused and whatever. She'd only been with us for like 3 months. And like, we'd take turns staying up overnight in the hospital with her constantly. And she kept getting worse. So finally, they said, we're going to have to take her by ambulance to Dallas, which is about 2 hours away from us. Said, we've got her on the strongest stuff here. We're doing the best care we can, but we don't have the equipment she needs. She needs urgent care, urgently. And so we said, okay. And I got in the ambulance with her. I was in the back seat with her. She's on a stretcher, still not hardly breathing and not awake, just out. And I'm, holding her hand and riding for 2 hours with her in the back of an ambulance, and we're just flying. And we get to this very nice hospital that has just top of the line everything. And we were there in the pediatric intensive care unit, the PICU, for
8 days.
8 days.
Because we were in the hospital a total of 10.
Yep.
In Dallas.
Right.
We were in for about a week here.
Yeah. So it was a couple of weeks that we were... And remember, we still have 3 other kids at this time who are like 8, 3, and 1, or 8, 4, and 2 or something. So we have little kids, no one to watch them. We're taking turns.
Back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth,
now,
sleeping.
When you say no one to watch them, my parents both have full time. Everyone we know that is willing to watch them, they stepped in how they could, when they could.
Yeah.
We had amazing people bring us meals, church friends.
Thank you, Monkey.
Brought meals. On weekends, family members stepped in, helped us. Couple of times, a sweet friend of ours stayed at the hospital overnight just so we could sleep at home as a family.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously minus Eva.
Yeah.
But a couple of weeks, 17 days total of pure chaos for our other 3. Pure stress for us. A lot of questioning for us. But it also, even through all of this, you can still see how awesome God is and his goodness, and if you're following his plans, how he is going to make things work. Because while we felt stress and we were upset and he was angry at the situation, angry with God. I'm not gonna lie, I was angry. I did not want to leave my other 3 kids and husband here at all, ever, to go to Dallas to spend time at the hospital. But the 3 kids here, like, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Not one time did they complain. They thought it was awesome that they got to go see the helicopters at the hospital.
Yeah, that was cool.
They thought it was awesome that Eva got to do this cool stuff at this hospital that had like this huge Legoland kind of area, like all this cool stuff, awesome Christmas lights that were put up. They only saw the good in it. And by them seeing the good in it, and it kind of just honestly refreshed our souls, because, or my soul anyway. I don't think it refreshed yours much at the time.
They're pouring out like insane love right now. Guys, thank y'all so much.
I don't know what any of that means.
BJ just cheered 250 bits, said, I know that God put you in my path at a right time to help me through all the loss I've gone through. BJ has had an excruciating year, losing pretty much everybody close to him.
Wow.
Parents, friends. It's been awful. He said, my son thinks you're amazing and is always asking about you. God has really blessed Eva with you too as her parents, and I'm excited for you. Thank you so much. BJ.
These are bits.
Thank you.
Thank you for them.
Guys. Twitch theologian just did 1,000 bits. Thank you
for them.
So, guys, thank y'all so much. Ivory John with 100 bits. Thank you. Ray Will with 100 bits. Blue Eyes with all the love, all the hearts. Risto with the bits. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Y'all are incredible. Thank you. I'm sorry. You can continue. I was tearing up again. Sorry. She can tell you I don't cry.
You don't, and like, yeah. But it, like, to kind of end on that segment, I guess, of the whole thing, is it was really cool to see God's goodness through our kids.
These are bits.
Who did not have a stable home life for 17 days because of this other child that they had only had in their life for a couple of weeks or months. Sorry. But they still showed her the amount of love that only God could have given to them to show, because they could have easily, especially Kat, she could have easily became angry, decided she did not want Eva in our family anymore, decided that she did not think Eva was as cool of a sister as she really thought she was going to be. James could have easily became angry because he's a mama's boy, and I was gone a lot. Like, we took equal turns, but he didn't have his mama for several weeks, and he had a stressed out daddy. Not several weeks, several days at a time. He had a stressed out daddy trying to hold down the fort here.
Yep.
Then Silas is just a little blonde head, blue eye, bouncing off the walls no matter what.
Moti.
As long as he got his tea, he was good. So, it was really, really cool just to see God moving through them and being our strongholds or our anchors during that time, because it could have easily been the other way. They could have easily had completely different attitudes, and at that point we would have had to reevaluate and decide if Eva really was.
It would have been hard. Somehow I've learned so much about love through this whole process. It would have been easy for that to be kind of the nail in the coffin, this is too much, God, we can't handle this. In my heart, I was kind of there in a way, Brownie, thank you so much. Y'all are incredible. Thank you so much for the love. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know what else to say, but thank you. Man, I don't even know what I was saying. Oh,
Easy to give up.
but yeah, I've learned so much about love through this, from watching Lauren, from watching our kids and their response, because they never got upset.
No. They only thought it was the most awesome thing that they had a sister with Down
These
syndrome.
are bits.
Yeah.
Thank
Like,
you
that
for
is
them.
the only thing that they ever said. And they still say, I
These are
have
bits.
a
Thank you
brother
for
and
them.
I have or Kat will say, I have 2 brothers and I have a sister. And the really cool thing is that one is adopted, the brother is adopted, and the sister has Down syndrome. And that's how she goes and tells her life. James calls her his little baby. And I mean,
These are bits.
it'll be
Thank
fun
you
to
for
see
them.
how he takes on the role of protective big brother or little brother. But he's not really at that age yet that he can really express how he truly feels.
Yeah.
But even through
These
all
are
of
bits.
that,
Thank you for them.
the older 2 have never had a doubt. They've never had a selfish moment with any of it.
I've been the only selfish one out of all 5 of us.
These are bits.
They
Thank you for
none of
them.
them have ever been selfish through this whole thing. I've been the one. But what's interesting is during this time in the hospital,
These are bits. Thank you for
all
them.
the feels I know. During this time in the hospital, I didn't get like more upset with God. I think it kind of broke my heart in that. Like, there was still plenty of seasons where I was angry and upset and confused and whatever. But I think during that time, I just saw this little person that I loved. Even though I'd only known her a few months, I loved her, and I just wanted to help her and see her get better. It's heartbreaking feeling powerless to be able to do anything to help, because I couldn't make her breathe. I couldn't help her. All I could do was be there for her. And
honestly, we couldn't even, I don't know how it was when you were there, but I know when I was there, it was hard to even get in her bed and hold her.
Oh yeah,
because
you see all the stuff,
yeah.
all the wires and everything. It was constantly like that.
So talking about trauma, she went from no love to 2 months of probably overwhelming love.
Yeah.
Back to no love, or in her feel no love again, because
no hugs, no
physical
kisses,
touch,
no nothing.
And
Just...
she is very much a physical touch kiddo.
Yeah, you can see from like this. She'll crawl all over you. She loves physical contact. She'll crawl all over you, hug you, hold you, kiss you. And
she'll just go
amazing.
up and she'll pat you and hi.
Yeah.
But that's always been how she's been, as a physical touch. So I can't imagine in her little mind what she was feeling, because yes, she is a Down syndrome child, or a child with Down syndrome. We don't have Down syndrome as the defining point in her, by any means. But, and I think this is one of those things you've learned over the course of time. Like, yes, she's diagnosed with Down syndrome, but they can learn and they know so much more than you guys can ever imagine.
These are bits. Thank you for
So
them.
I have no doubt in my head that time that she was in the hospital, she did have a feel of, I was loved, now I'm not loved. Obviously not in those terms or those words, but yeah.
Go for it.
I was just saying, one thing with Downs is that they are the most stubborn of all of the disabilities.
Oh, yeah.
And we are seeing some of that stubbornness with Eva. But they have the absolute most love to share. And they teach you so much about love. And I mean, I think that what Pastor said is exactly right. They teach you more than you know about love. And I feel like that's where and this is her really awesome CASA worker. CASA's her advocate.
Yeah.
So if we were a situation that was not, I mean, she has a little bit of say and she can give the reports to the court all day, but court is eventually who decides. And reality is when you have kids with special needs, they're very hard to get placed. And so they had a family or a home that it was a single lady actually that was willing to have her. And so no point in moving her. She was happy. She was alive.
Yeah.
And so there was no reason to move her. But you can, like, this kind, and when we got her, I want to say she was 18 pounds.
Yeah, she was
tiny. She was almost 3, a week shy of 3. We got both of our kids a week before their birthday, so we got them, and we were struggling to get birthday parties
instantly
together.
Figure out a birthday.
But then you had to be careful because you couldn't overwhelm them because they were already completely overwhelmed. Their worlds are turned upside down.
Right.
So with her, for her 3rd birthday, we actually had a balloon release because she was unable to eat. So we had people FaceTime in, some family members, and had a balloon release.
No ice cream.
No cake, no ice cream. Just a fun balloon release. And
now she loves to smash cake. If we give it to her. Oh, okay. So good, happy endings.
So let's get into that.
So let's get into all the happy. We told all the sad stuff.
But I think that's important. Like, I feel like a lot of times, especially in adoption stories, you don't get the real raw truth of what foster care is. And I mean, we only skimmed the surface.
Yeah, we could talk for a lot
There's so much that goes into foster care. He briefly mentioned the I can so see Eva doing that one day to the boys.
Huh?
What Pastor said.
Oh, Jan was super strong. She'd push me into a chair, pin me so I couldn't get away from her. Then she'd sit on my lap and kiss my cheeks and laugh and laugh.
I love it.
Yep, that's exactly what Eva does to Sai.
It really is so
He'll like laugh and then scream if he wants her off, but she'll just pin him down and kiss him and hug him and get off, Eva.
I do have one other story before we go into the other, but
the happy stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So because it's really funny, it goes kind of into that, but just to show how smart this little girl is. We were at my parents' and they have like a couch. Most houses have. And then they have a little doorway kind of thing that's open, but it goes into the kitchen. So Eva and James were sitting on the couch. This was the weekend you didn't go. You were up here right before Easter.
Oh, yeah.
You were working on Easter stuff. And so the kids and I went and celebrated Easter with my parents and some of my siblings down there. And I hear James just scream. And James is our kid with a high-pitched voice.
Oh, my goodness.
Silas has low pitch. James is extremely high. So he's just screaming.
So when they argue, it's like, give me back my thing. No, but it's mine. No, give me back. No.
Yeah, that is them.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
And so he's the high-pitched one. And I'm like, what is going on? So I walk around and Eva has... So, like, this is James. This is Eva's feet. This is James's head. Her feet are right here on his head. And I was like, Eva, get off of him. And so one thing that I've always found is very odd. I understand, but I don't understand is you cannot pop any kid in foster care. You cannot spat their hand. You cannot spank them. There is no physical anything. Unless it is showing love, which goes back to the trauma. A lot of training there, but so I couldn't even like pop her hand and say, Eva, get off of your brother. That's not okay. So I would walk around the corner after I thought everything was good. And then, love you, Sam. You do not have to have beauty sleep. You and Emily are the pretty cousins. Y'all are awesome. Natural beauty there. But I would walk around the corner and then hear this ridiculous high-pitched scream again, walk right back around. Here's Eva, or James's head, Eva's feet, right on top. Get her off. I'd walk around the corner, and this happened 3 or 4 times, and she's just giggling the whole time because she knows what she's doing. She knows she should not have her feet all over his head. But it's funny to see how
she thinks it's funny.
How much she
can push their buttons.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm enjoying getting to tell Eva a story.
Yeah, because we've never got to, because you can't. You can't talk about this kind of stuff.
You can say bits and pieces, but you can't post pictures of them.
No.
You can't.
That's why I posted all these pictures yesterday.
Only our close family and some church. Some of my cousins may know, or might have known some of the.
Oh, and this one?
Things,
yeah.
But yeah, most people do not know anything about her story.
No.
And honestly, we don't know a lot about her story until we get what they call the HESEC and the redacted file, which is everything from the day she was put into care on. So we didn't even her HESEC and her redacted file has nothing from her receiving her G button to her heart surgery.
Blue Eye said, I'd love to see her on stream one day.
We should do a family stream one day.
Now we can, because now we can all be on camera.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of the reasons we changed their names too, is because once they are adopted, they're out of the system. And while her family left her, and obviously has no will or want to come back to her, a lot of these kids do have family members out there who are still searching for them, who did not pass the home studies or things of that nature to get these kids back.
Thank you, Nash.
So they're still in the system or adopted for a reason. So we changed their names to one of my brothers kind of put it in perspective actually with Silas, because we were going to leave. What were we gonna do with him? I want to say we were gonna leave something with his name the same. But he put into perspective that they were taken from their family those people for a reason, that they weren't loved well by those people, and God put them with people who would love them well and who would help them grow. And when their names were changed to family names of my parents, they Pastor 84 for Grandma and Grandpa Solly. That's insane.
Wow.
Which is awesome. But we changed their names to let them know that they were ours forever, and essentially protect them from other people who didn't need to have their information from finding them. And that's the case. Silas does have family out there that did try to get him, so we changed his name completely. Eva, we changed her name completely because she is a part of our family, and she is always going to be forever ours. So
she doesn't like snow.
She
by
hated
the way.
the snow. But I think he put it into perspective that it's so special to him that he has a family name given to him. And so Silas has a family name. He's named after Dustin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my middle name.
Yeah. And Eva has a family name. She's after my mom. And then the other kids are named after both of our grandparents for James, and both the grandmas, my grandma and great grandma for Kat.
Yep.
But he really put it into perspective that it just makes them feel even more like they are our family, with the fact that they have names that are family names.
Yeah.
And everything, it's kind of, I know you were going to tie this into like being saved. And
yeah, because Ivory John kind of beat me to it. He said, I love adoption, so close to the heart of God.
Oh.
It's all of our story with him. He's so good, and this is such a beautiful picture for us, his bride, to hear about. Amen. Yeah. That's exactly it, because the Bible even uses that word of adoption.
Yeah.
Says that we are adopted into the family of God, and that's what it is. It's this gift of love and grace, and just bringing us in, even though we don't deserve it, we didn't earn it, but he loves us that much that he has brought us in, and we can get into all what that looks like. But actually, you know what? Slave of Christ typed it earlier, the ! Gospel. I didn't read it then, so I'll read it now. But anytime that this gets triggered in my chat, I always stop to read it. This is the gospel message. It's that all have sinned against a holy God, and sin eternally separates us from God. But Jesus poured out his blood, atoned for our sin, and rose from the grave, so that whoever repents and believes will be born again to a new eternal life in Christ. And that's adoption. That's being adopted into the family of God. So yeah, it's so much like this. This picture even is maybe a perfect representation of that. That I'm no God, but that you see the father there who's happy and smiling and just, showing love, but the child there, which is often us, is kicking and screaming and fighting, whatever. I was just trying to get her to play in the snow and see what snow felt like. She never felt it.
And she won't ever again.
No, she did not want anything to do with it. I put her on the ground and was making her walk around in it, and I threw a snowball at her back, and she did not like that at all. She was very upset with me. But yeah, and God's love for us is so good. So good.
Well, and it's awesome, like even that picture too shows a complete transformation with you.
With me, yeah. Because this was that freeze not long ago.
Yeah, this was the February freeze. I mean, you went well over a year of being angry.
Yeah.
And
very true, John.
Like just looking at this picture, it's a completely different. Yeah, you forced smiles, and you did have like legit honest smiles in some of those pictures, but they weren't this kind of smile. They weren't I'm happy you are my child.
Right.
So it's really cool to see the transformation.
So from day one, I loved Eva. I did.
You can't not love her.
Yeah, you can't not love Eva. I've always loved
Wrinkly
Eva.
eye smiles are the best.
It was more.
It was a sympathetic. It was a sympathy care.
Yeah, kind of. But well, yeah. I think my anger and upsetness towards God was that I love this child, but I don't want to have to.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to. I do love her, and I always have, and I can't imagine life without Eva. And you try to touch my Eva, you're in for a world of pain. I'm gonna break you in half. I'm gonna protect my little Eva. She's my little baby. And there she is.
Potato.
But yeah, that's Mr. Potato Head glasses. But yeah, it's been incredible, and it's so cool to know her story, where she came from, never eating, never walking, never talking, never doing anything, not even able to stop moving or keep her tongue in her mouth, to now she's eating, drinking, running all over the place, climbing up on stuff, which there's pictures of that in here somewhere, talking, She has speech therapy every week. She has physical therapy every week. She has occupational therapy every week.
Kind of go through some of her therapy. She has.
Yeah, you know more about that.
So she started.
Tell them
if you remember, and this is a long stream, so I'm gonna wrap up and.
This is a short stream.
Well, for me, I still got to make lunches and get things ready for school tomorrow. But when we got her, she was getting 10, 15, and 15. So 10 OT, 15 PT, and 15 speech a month. In a full month. Which is ridiculously stupid to even waste your time and paper on getting those things together. So her therapy's scheduled now, and this is another thing, like, it just goes to show how amazing the other 3 kids are, because never once have they complained, never once. And I will say, we always have it in the front of our head, we are not going to let the needs of Eva affect what Kat gets to do, or affect what James gets to do, or when Sai gets old enough, they will still get to do their activities. They will still get to be in basketball. So it's been a juggle on our part, trying to. I love that they're in all of the pictures.
Yeah,
because they are truly partners in crime.
Can I say something about the fact that these 2 are in these pictures and adopted?
Yeah.
Something that the judge said in both of the adoptions.
It was the same judge, which was really cool.
Same judge, and he was awesome. The first one with Sai, we were able to be in person, obviously, and then with Eva, it had to be over Zoom yesterday. But he said the same thing. He asked the same question on both of those adoption cases. He said, so by adopting these children, you understand, or this child, you understand that it is as if you birthed them, as if they are your natural born child. It's not that they're someone else's kid and you're just taking care of them. It's as if they are yours. And that's something that it's very hard for me to wrap my brain around, because I can say those words, but stop and think for a second. Think if you were in my shoes right there, and you were standing before the judge, and you love this child who's been in your house for several months or a year or whatever, you've been taking care of them, you've been feeding them, cleaning them, whatever, and then they say, you understand that if you adopt this child, it's as if they are your natural born child. That's a very hard thing to accept, to embrace, and it has to be intentional. It has to be a very intentional choice to say, yes, I will love and view this child as if they were my natural born child. Because any of you who are a parent you know what it's like whenever you first see and hold your child. Whenever you become a father or a mother and you hold that child. Whenever Kat was born and I held Kat for the first time, I went from however old I was then, 23, 4, something like that. Year old. Yeah, she's 10, 24. When I was 24 and I'm holding this baby, I instantly went from young adult to man, because now I am fully responsible for this creature, this child. If I don't do what I need to do, this child suffers. I need to take care of them. I need to protect them. I need to provide for them. I need to do blah, 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 blah. And so to have that moment, that handoff moment, to be, instead of like physical birth and then you hold the child, instead it's a legal thing and I'm signing a paper and now you have this moment, but it's all like legal and on paper. So that's why I'm saying it has to be a very intentional thing. So whenever the judge asked, especially about Eva yesterday, I was leaning into the iPad on Zoom And they said the same question. You understand that it's as if this child was birthed to you. Are you sure about that? And I said, absolutely. Said it emphatically. Because even though, yes, my whole journey that we've been sharing about this, it's been hard. I've been angry at God. I've been yelling at God and fighting and kicking and screaming through this whole thing. It's a work that God has done in all of us, and I'm so grateful for the work that he's done in me through this. Eva has taught me so much about love, about growth, about maturity, about parenting. And while I still may be my own worst critic and never feel like I'm good enough, I want to be the best that I can be for all 4 of our kids.
So one thing, it kind of came up yesterday because when they're adopted, they have a gotcha day.
Yeah.
And that is the day that, so basically kids who are adopted have,
this was Easter.
Yeah. Have 2 birthdays because they have their real birthday and then they have their gotcha day. And gotcha days are a big deal. I don't know if they're a big deal in every adopted family, or if I just think they are a huge deal because we always celebrated them. And like the kid we're celebrating for that day,
said about Lauren. Pastor said, I'm so proud of you, Lauren. Your heart of love is so pure and as big as God's perfect love.
Thanks, Pastor.
Amen.
I'm not gonna cry here. But we love gotcha days because it is, and Kat said, well, they're so lucky they have a gotcha day. And kind of to put it in perspective for them, we have a gotcha day for those kids that we have adopted, but it's also, like I explained to Kat last night, we have their gotcha day too. Eva and Silas on their days got a family forever. But James, Silas, and Kat all got a new sister forever.
Yeah.
So it is a celebration. So we spend a full day just celebrating all of the kids because they all got something special on those days. So April 19th and July 30th are our gotcha days. So it's always, gotcha days are so fun to celebrate. They really are. I forgot what we were. This is actually another one of my adopted brothers.
Yep. Right here.
He is.
All right, thank you, Sean. Sleep well, man. Thanks for hanging with us tonight.
Anything you want me to? I'm gonna go.
Love you too, Sean. Yep, she's my silly little kid. First day of school right here.
Yep, first day of this school year.
Yep.
Yeah, I think. But a couple have asked about the therapies and
Oh yeah.
And her medication. So she is down to
Amen, John.
Just a saline spray and an inhaler for her asthma and an allergy medicine, and then her therapies, again, that the older kids or the other 3 kids could get angry about because it is very time consuming.
Yeah.
She's got physical therapy once a week, I'm sorry, for 45 minutes, speech twice a week for 30 minutes each time, and OT once a week for
occupational therapy,
sorry, for
I've tried to get her to stop speaking in acronyms about special ed stuff with me for years, but it naturally comes out.
That's what we say. That was when she was in the hospital. So she has made so much progress. We still have a lot of progress to make, but I kind of wanted to go back and say this is the perfect picture for what I'm fixing to say.
Okay, I'll leave it there.
I mean, you see the people in this picture. This
was yesterday.
Yes, this was at the adoption yesterday. There's 19 of us in this picture, I believe is what I counted. And you always hear it takes a village to raise a child, and we have the biggest village. We have, I mean, this is not even a small fraction of the village, and it's not just to raise Eva, but kind of to put it into perspective, I had mentioned before that Eva's not where she is because Dustin and I took her in. Eva is where she is today because God has placed her with us, knowing that she would have 3 amazing siblings, plus her bonus sister, Addison, who loves her ridiculously big. She has our neighbors. She has her nurse and her family. She has amazing school staff, her therapist. She's got 3 therapies at home. She gets those 3 therapies by 3 different therapists at school. Our church family has been their family. I mean, that's exactly what it is. They are our second family that steps in. Even they don't even understand how much they do, but even just stepping in, Miss Maria, to the nursery Monday, she saw that Sunday when you weren't there, saw we were there, and James was having a hard time in big service, just wiggly, and just her taking James into the nursery so that I could focus on kids' church. So it's just all these different people in our lives have stepped up, and they have become the village, and we easily have and like even all of my coworkers, Miss Bev, and like all these people who just love our kids like they are their own kids. And would, like, when we were going back and forth from the hospital, Miss Bev was a huge blessing. She would take the kids from school and meet Dustin wherever he was, if I was in Dallas. So many people. We probably have well over 300 people in our village to raise these kids. And so all of the progress that she has made has absolutely not been because of Dustin and I. It's been because of all of the different people coming in and working together and doing their specialized part to get her as independent as she can be as she gets older. So, I guess I kind of want to leave it on that.
Yeah, that's good. I can't imagine life without her. This was the day that we brought her home. You can see she's wearing that same picture, or that same shirt from earlier, the one where she has that lifeless face. And right here, she still kind of looks lifeless, but she's pulling Lauren's hair. Like Jenga was just saying, thank you for sharing. It's so inspirational and all that. That kind of plays into that. Yeah. That kind of plays into what I was talking about earlier about not feeling like a good parent. Great parent to 1, decent to 2, struggling to 3, terrible to 4. But to see the work that God has done in me in that, I don't want it to be like inspirational for the sake of thinking that we're anything special. Yeah. Like I say, anytime y'all say something like that about like us doing the blessing bank or something, you're like, oh wow, that's so great of you to do. No, it's all of it is Jesus. It's all God. Any good thing you see in me, in us, is God. It's the result of a changed life. Naturally, we're selfish. We're self-centered. We focus on ourselves, whatever. To adopt someone and take them in as your own is like the most selfless thing you can do, and that's only by the grace of God that either of us or anyone else is able to do that. So I'm glad that the story is inspirational and helps and builds you up and gives you hope and those kind of things, but I want to make sure that it's all pointing to Christ, because he's the source of all of it. That was what I wanted to say.
Okay.
I promise you can go now.
I just have to make lunches for tomorrow.
You gotta make lunches.
I have not made lunches.
See,
and I have to get up in 6
that's part
hours.
of it with 4 kids. Hey.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. See ya, guys.
Y'all say bye to Momston or Fred or whatever you want to call her. Not Mrs.
Fredston.
Houston, though. Huh?
Fredston.
Fredston? Okay,
I'm
Fredston.
tired.
There we go.
Okay.
Y'all can say goodnight to Fredston.
Good night, y'all.
Or just bye, Lauren.